negative concepts that in the media on daily basis we are bombarded with negative news, never good news from the Middle East. So perception of the Middle East equates with terrorism, war, camels, Saddam Hussein, veil, you name it. Islam is the same way. So strict religion, mosques, no rights for women, inequality, and anti-Americans, and you name it. Conclusion. Overall perceptions of the Middle East, Arabs and Muslims, are overwhelmingly negative. You already saw the partial list. So what is it? It's the misinformation and lack of knowledge. Very few people can speak the language, know the history in depth, and has a desire to go and learn more. And so this is really unnecessary insecurity that we have created. And these are not Apple products. When you watch the news, pay attention, folks, for the newsman or woman. If they say Iraq and Iran, just turn off the TV and run as fast as. Even politicians, they cannot pronounce these two countries correctly. It is Iran and Iraq, not Iran and Iraq. You never say Italy, you say Italy, right? So I teach this to my students. I say that this is a good indication, these small things. Just watch the news. For politicians, if they cannot pronounce the name of journalists or country, that means they don't have the in-depth knowledge to at least make an attempt to learn the name of a country, which is so simple, 4 letters, you know, Iran and Iraq. Not difficult, but it is not Italy, it is Italy, Iran, Iraq. And that gives you a little bit hint about the depth of their knowledge. Misinformation and lack of knowledge. So that means we need to deconstruct and reconstruct our knowledge of Middle East. When I teach these courses in UT Tyler or some other places, I say, folks, all the things you know, just bury them. Let's start from scratch. Start from the beginning, and let's just, you know, unteach and teach again and learn the facts. Well, this matters. Well, our enemy counts on our ignorance. They make a joke, you know, in their own countries, in the media, that the President of the United States did this or said this, which was not correct, didn't pronounce something correctly. I want to use this quotation from Dr. Martin Luther King, that we had a celebration of his birthday a few days ago. Men hate each other because they fear each other. And they fear each other because they don't know each other. And they don't know each other, because they're often separated from each other. Very powerful statement. So fear, create fear, ignorance, and then create hate. It goes on the media every day, every single day. It can be Islamic people, it can be immigrants, it can be caravan, it can be, I don't know, white people, black people, Mexicans, short people, tall people, male, woman, homosexuals, you name it. Create that fear, create ignorance and fear and then hate. So what is the key to success in life? Short of becoming a reality TV star is education, which you have taken your lunch time to come here. Parking was a nightmare here today. I'm sorry. I really apologize for you. I should have informed my students about the parking. I forgot. I take the blame, but I hope that you find a place to park, and if you get a ticket or something, see me. So, because I take responsibility for that. Anyhow, education is very important. So let's start with just definition of Middle East, which you saw that I surveyed you in this. We have almost, I think, if I am correct, about 80 people. Is that correct number? 84. 84. Wow, for short. I'm good. All right. Yes, harder. Yes. Give the Nancy's clap, yes. 84, yeah. We have 84 people that did not get the right number for the Middle East. So that's okay, that's not a big deal, but that just gives you, we need to really learn where the Middle East is by definition, so we can understand better. I love maps. Maps, I can never get tired of maps because maps are so educational, and if they say a picture is 1,000 words, I say always my pictures are 2,000 because I find very good maps. Middle East is not a precise geographical area like Europe or Africa, and it is not political or economic alliance like EU, and it is not even agreed upon term by scholars, by countries, by anybody. It is just what is usage, commonly used as a Middle East. So what is Middle East? You question me. So the answer is not a, doesn't have a concise definition. This started with British general term that in relevance to UK, they looked at the world map, Near East, Far East, and then what? Middle East. The Near East referred to what? The Ottoman Empire. For 400 years, the Ottoman Empire, Near East. Then the Far East, Japan, China, and all those countries. So between them that's really relative to UK. London, you have to look at east from where? From London, yes. And middle from where? So that's basically far, near, middle. That's the way the concept was invented in the 19th century. It has about 25 countries, and they vary from geographical area to population, resources, economic, human development, and political systems. Let's explore these a little bit. The three largest nations are Turkey, Iran, this computer is so sensitive, I shouldn't touch that fast. So Turkey, Iran, Egypt are the biggest with 80 million people. This map, again, Google is your best friend. Just population of the Middle East, Google, go to the maps and explore and learn. So you can see the biggest countries, Pakistan 200 million, Yemen 28, has been on the news. Syria 18 million, which means almost a million refugees and thousands dead, and you name it. So these numbers are very important, shows the significance and importance of the Middle East. So Middle East is a land bridge connecting three continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa. Let's look at the map. So it connects Europe, it connects Asia, and then North Africa. That is basically 25 countries. This is also North Africa. As you see, I added North Africa. Sometimes they cover it that way. It's a very complex area. It has rivers, it has seas, it's not all desert, mountains, check out the mountains. Natural geography varies. And we do also have something called Fertile Crescent. Do you see that green crescent there? You will see another, another map I have, you will see it. And so, sometimes in some historical books they refer to Fertile Crescent, the Levant, Anatolia, which refers to Turkey or Asia Minor, biblical name. Mesopotamia, between two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, right, thank you very much. Arabian Peninsula and Maghreb. These are sometimes used synonymously, but they are technically very different. So that's the crescent, that Fertile Crescent, cradle of civilizations. I also got this world map to show in relationship to the United States. While the Middle East is about 6,000 or 7,000 miles away from us, what happens in that region affects our lives in gas prices, in terms of our army, taxes, how we support, whether we go to war or we don't, at the airport, and the list goes on and on. How did this happen? 2016 was the anniversary of Sykes-Picot Agreement, 1916. So media covered quite a bit. That was the time, it was the First World War, that the Ottoman Empire was collapsed. Once the Ottoman Empire collapsed, this is what happened. The British, French, Italian, and Spain government took over. It shows by color coded that UK took over Iraq, Egypt, Sudan, Yemen, Oman, and Qatar, UAE, yeah, United Arab Emirates. Then France took over Syria, Algeria, and then Morocco, and then Libya by Italy and the rest. So you can see, and then Iran and Turkey and Saudi Arabia was called buffer zone to keep these states separate from each other, avoid conflict. So the roots of all this conflict goes back to what happened during the First World War after the Ottoman Empire was collapsed. Politically unstable and divided regions of the world, and there's no democratic system in the Middle East as we speak. Israel is an exception to only Israeli Jewish people. That's the only democratic country. The rest of them are just a variation, fake, autocratic, failed, undemocratic states. The next slide is very telling. All these American politicians making fun of democracy. That's in Arabic written democracy, which says it's a joke to call we have a democratic system in the Middle East. Not so. Check out Syria, how complex the relationship is. Who's supporting who? I already showed you a map, and I'm going to show you another map for you that how many different war is going on in Syria. We have a civil war, we have a sectarian war, we have a proxy war. Which states are involved? Russia is involved, Iran is involved, Hezbollah is involved. Then we have ISIS, United States, Turkey. We have sectarian, you mentioned the tribalism between Shia and Sunni. Then we have proxy wars that goes on in the Middle East. So you go figure this one out to try to understand what goes on in Syria. Another picture about Syria, again, this can be another presentation, long hours to explore that who's supporting who and why and what goes on and why Trump decided to pull 2,000 United States Army out of Syria, and it was so controversial. So time doesn't allow me to go in depth, but I just want you to think about it, just the complexity of the issue. This is another complex disorder that my topic is Middle East regional disorder, gives you an idea. And it's just endless, a terrifying chart that who's friend, who's enemy, who supports who hates who, and who has no clue. So such a complicated area. So Middle East is a very important part of the world, and it has longest cultural history in the region, birthplace of human civilizations, and Fertile Crescent, I already mentioned you, agriculture started there, writing, laws, and mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, all these started there partially. Actually, some of it started from India, came to Middle East, from Middle East went to Greece. We go to Greece and we study these, that all the discoveries, Greek people went and learned and came back and added to mathematics and different things. And Istanbul, Cairo, Alexandria, Beirut, Baghdad, Jerusalem, these are the places that was a center of knowledge, activities for human being, many discoveries. Today we use Arabic numbers in your, the numbers we use, numericals, because Latin was impossible to add and subtract and multiply. Those, Roman numbers, yeah, Roman numbers, not Latin, Roman numbers. Concept of zero, invented by Middle East. Some people argue it came from India, but there are some truth, or perhaps partial. Decimals, fractions, algebra. Algebra is what? Arabic word, algebra. A-L, algebra. So which you hated so much, right? I know. Yeah. Alchemy, chemistry, petrol, soap, alcohol. These are all invented in the Middle East. Physics, you name it, magnetic compass, letter X. Each one of these really could be fascinating topics to discuss, and the contribution of the Middle East to our civilizations. English words, there are so many Arabic words that we use on a daily basis, but you may not realize that these are Arabic words. It came from Arab civilizations and Middle East. Zero, computer, all these cell phones that you use operates on the principle of what? Binary, 0 1s. So you can see the importance of invention of a zero. Well, it looks like we have 10 more minutes to go. Let me just cover a few things about economy, and then hopefully we'll have a few minutes for questions. Silk roads, Middle East, the Silk Road, remember that from China, the trade, spices, incense, perfumes, precious metals, ivory, silk, just traded through these routes and all the way to Europe. So, trade route. Oil, you mentioned oil, petroleum. So, we are going to cover a few numbers here. 65% of the world reserves are in the Middle East. Check out that map, it shows how much oil in this region. In the whole world, it's the largest area. Look at that black spot. United States gets 30%. It has reduced quite a bit in recent years. We are trying to reduce our dependence on oil, but still we like gas guzzling vehicles to drive, so then we have to import, not enough. Where do we get these? Canada? Look at Saudi Arabia. Venezuela is a hot topic. Why do we support this president and that president? What's going on in Venezuela? Just study the oil politics. You understand why Trump administration supporting one side or the other, or what goes on. Just study oil. 40% of the world's arms supply, they import it, they buy it. Let's look at some numbers here. But before I get to the numbers, 110 billion arms sale. Remember we talked about that journalists murdering in Turkey consulate, Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Khosrowshahi. So, United States policy, Trump policy, this picture, it just shows that why. Human rights is important, or selling weapons, jobs in the United States. Mr. Trump was very clear that that he wants to, keep the economy healthy, sell things, keep jobs here, and worry about human rights. So there you have it, bragging about selling $15 billion arms because it means jobs, economy, money for the United States. There you have it. So that's a good picture, not bad. Yes. And then there is a military-industrial complex. Why do we have so many wars in the region? Go beyond the news to see what happens. Who contributes to members of Congress? How does this corporations, and this is the concept used by which president? Military-industrial complex? Anyone? Who said Eisenhower? You get a calendar. Yes, come and get your calendar. Yes, because I'm running out of time. So there you have it. Eisenhower mentioned it. Oh, you want a calendar? Yeah, yes, please. I have only 2 left, yes.
All right. Sorry.
Lockheed, Halliburton, Boeing, and you name it, these are the beneficiaries of these wars. They like to have wars. So they support this president. Look at that. Gold necklace, thank you very much for your arms. Even the money makes you to dance with them. So there you have it. So, 9/11, 15 of the attackers were Saudis. 9/11 attack, 19 of them. 15 of them were Saudi Arabia. Muslim ban, Saudi Arabia is not included. Let them in, that's okay. So this is the concept that you understand, military-industrial complex. Very complicated. Again, time doesn't allow me to go to in-depth, cover these things. You must take my course and learn more. And on religious significance, let me just wrap it up because I'm running out of time. I want to give you time for questions. Earlier, I told you that 3 monotheistic religions started from the Middle East. And Christianity, Judaism, and Islam started there. It was a Middle East that Jesus walked, and Christianity was born. And this is my favorite billboard, that Jesus was Middle Easterner. And
Here we go.
Yeah, let me just stop there. So, Islam, recently in the United States, we had how many members of Muslim congressmen elected? Huh?
2 or 3.
Two, I think 2 of them, yeah, if I remember correctly. So you can see the role of Islam for the Middle East, Obama being a Muslim, and all these things are connected. Just think in total. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. I should stop here to give you a chance at least to answer a few questions. Then we will adjourn at 1 o'clock. Yes, sir.
My question is about the Kurds.
Kurds, yeah, excellent question. Kurds, it was my doctoral dissertation topic 30 years ago. Kurds is a very touchy topic because Turks are divided between at least 4 countries: Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. The largest number of Kurds are in Turkey, but the ones who live in Syria are supported by the United States. So to fight with ISIS. But Turkey doesn't like that. So it gets complicated. Kurds are a divided nation. They have never had a country of their own. They are trying to have one. But it's a big topic and complicated. Yes?
Why not be able to form one?
I'm sorry?
Form a country for the Kurds.
Yeah, there are some freedom, like in Iraq, partially, and Syria partially, but it's not an independent state as such. Yes, because they have some high level of independence in Iraq after the war, and partially in Syria, but they have not been able to unite because of internal division and foreign powers. They don't have a state of their own. Locally, some independence, yes. Any other question? Yes, sir.
I have a statement to make.
Sure.
I hear saying all the time by academics, they keep referring to us as democracy.
Yes,
We are a constitutional republic.
correct,
You will not see that in the word democracy in our constitution.
correct.
And but even some of our presidents refer to us as democracy. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. When you go in the military, you take an oath not to defend the Constitution, not to defend the United States as a country like other countries. You take an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Thank you very much for the comment. You said it's a comment.
Yeah, are we still under the Constitution is my question, are we?
Well, it's a battle we have. You see that our democracy, demos, let me explain this, because we go to Greece. Democracy is a Greek word. Demos means people, don't take it as a face value. And the kratos means rule.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Since we go to Greece, I study these things. Democracy is 2 words. Demos means people, kratos means rule. Literally, we refer rule by the people. It's just philosophically. But as you mentioned, based on a constitution. So, are we a constitutional democracy? Do we follow the constitution? You see that the battle goes on every day in the courts. What happens in Supreme Court, what happens between president, pull, push, all these things is about, how we are trying to hold to our democratic values. Folks, unfortunately, I teach political science. I have a feeling that with the power of internet, with the power of technology, the government everywhere, not only in the United States, have become too powerful, and they are trying to erode our democracy, take our rights away. Everywhere you go, the camera is everywhere. In the United States, it's just phobia. Everywhere you go, you feel that somebody is watching you somewhere. This is a terrifying thing. You don't have that freedom to go, not think that somebody is not going to check. Your cell phones, they know exactly where you are. They can trace and find your GPS or all these kind of things. So unfortunately, technology has given too much power to government all over the world, not only the United States, to control people, limit freedoms. So that's really a big challenge for the Supreme Court. Any other questions? Yes, last one. Yes, please, yes. Speak loudly so I can hear you.
This particular topic hits a responsive chord with me because in '63, I was a freshman at the University of Texas, not the one here, the one in Austin. And I roomed with an Arab from Saudi Arabia. And he was a big wheel there, his family was. He told me his father was the Saudi Arabian ambassador to Pakistan, that his education in Texas was being paid by the Saudi government. And in those days, the topics were a lot different than they are now. As near as I could dope it out, the main topics in '63 were oil and wiping Israel off the map. At any rate, he was there studying petroleum economics. And you might wonder how the two of us could get along, but actually we got along pretty well. But this brings back memories, kind of something personal to me about the topic we've been talking about today.
Very good. Well, I'm glad that it does, and that's a comment. So it's not a question. So thank you very much for your attention. I give the floor to Khosrowshahi.
Well, thank you, y'all, for your attendance. He's still unsure about if he's going to join us for lunch at Jack Ryan. So if you do want to join him for lunch, if he decides to, then just kind of hang around and we'll see what decision he makes for. Next week, please join us because we're going to be talking about refugees and global migration. We do have a different speaker. We have a lawyer who is coming to speak, an immigration attorney who will be our speaker next week. And I did send them the information, updated flyers, but maybe this one did not get updated. So I hope to see you then. Thank you, Dr. K. I have a little thank you card in token of our appreciation and also for your records, that little flyer. So thank you everyone for your attention and hope to see you all next week, Wednesday, 12 to 1 p.m.
So you go to please check out